Do you ever feel stuck in life, like you're just repeating the same patterns and you just can't seem to shake it off? Maybe you struggle with relationships or setting boundaries or feeling like you're not enough. These challenges often stem from our childhood wounds and the core beliefs that we developed as a result of them. Today's video is about two powerful tools that I think is vital, in my opinion, to understanding yourself better, and those two things are the inner child and core beliefs. Now, I have felt a lot of anxiety over the last several years, especially since my dad died in 2019, and I have felt just really quite cracked, really. It forced me to have to dig myself out of quite dark places, in all seriousness, and I'm just a person sharing my insights with you in how I've learned ways to do that. I feel like we are so quick to diagnose and medicate, and we're not actually asking ourselves or being asked the deeper questions as to what is actually going on for us. You know, there are reasons as to why we feel such strong emotions towards things and why we have such strong reactions, and it actually makes sense to feel a lot of the anxiety and depression that we feel. Out of all of the things that I have learned so far when it comes to treating anxiety or depression or really a lot of mental health issues, understanding that our childhood experiences and how it impacts us into adulthood has really been the biggest realization for me. Going down this path is the one thing that has truly helped me when it comes to dealing with the level of anxiety I feel or how cracked I feel. You know, it can feel really strange when it comes to looking back on your childhood at first, especially if you're someone that doesn't really have any strong memories at all. It takes time, and so don't expect to just look back on your childhood and find out all the answers from everything in your past overnight. For some of you, there might be really obvious past experiences that come up for you, whereas for others, it does just take time to gain deeper insight. If you have experienced painful memories that cause strong emotions to arise, or if you feel any distress, then obviously please seek professional help if needed and have the right support around you. Now, I'm quite lucky because my mum decided to become a counsellor, and so she has done a lot of self-work herself. She talks very openly with me and my siblings about what it would have been like for us growing up, and has helped us have deeper insight into what our experience was like from an adult perspective. It became quite clear to me that the more I delved into and looked into my past experiences and what it would have been like for me as a child growing up, the more I understood about myself and why I felt so much anxiety in my life, and why I've had a lot of the coping mechanisms I've had into adulthood, or I guess lack of coping mechanisms. There were elements of my childhood that was unpredictable and tense. My dad was a very anxious man and had a really rough childhood himself, and so that has obviously impacted the way that he was able to show up for us. My mum also had her own ways of being, which obviously impacted us as well. The experiences that you have in childhood, particularly in the way that you were parented, have a huge impact in who you are today and the beliefs that you subconsciously learned when you were young. The term inner child is used by psychologists to describe a part of us that represents our earliest childhood experiences, emotions, and memories. It's part of our mind that carries our earliest beliefs and perceptions about the world and influences the way we interact with others and ourselves. By understanding and connecting with our inner child, we can learn to heal old wounds and negative patterns of behavior that might be holding us back. It is essentially like a filter that we see the world through as adults. And the inner child is usually very active within us, especially when we are emotionally triggered. It is said by psychologists that the inner child part of our brain is usually around the age of 7 years old. Often children at this age, due to not having the cognitive reasoning, will make whatever happens in their life experiences to mean that there is something wrong with them or that they are at fault in some way. For example, in my own life, my dad would often be really stressed from work, and so if I went and tried to talk to him, he could be really irritated and just snap at me. As a young child, I didn't have the understanding that he was just stressed from work and that it wasn't about me. I've learned that in moments like these when I was growing up, or when I would have learned to start to be really hypervigilant and really highly sensitive to other people's needs in fear of upsetting them in some way. I would have started to learn how to people please and to behave in a way to get approval by getting attention and love. These beliefs start to become stories that we unknowingly tell ourselves for the rest of our lives unless we intentionally try to confront the belief. It is interesting to think how a lot of us think our core beliefs are our own. Of course, we can start to create our own beliefs as we get older. However, a lot of our core beliefs have been so ingrained into us from such an early age that we aren't even aware of, and so it feels like our own beliefs. More often than not, it is just simply a learned belief and likely from our parents. Common beliefs that we all share are things like I'm not good enough, or I can't cope, or I'm not worthy. These beliefs are often outdated and certainly not serving us. They harm us in ways that are hard to even recognize and are often causing symptoms and problems in our lives and relationships. We need to learn to be able to reconnect with the inner child part of ourselves in order to figure out where a lot of our deeper core issues are coming from. We need to be able to let ourselves know that we can cope, that we are worthy, and that we are enough. We need to be able to create new narratives and stories that we tell ourselves so that we can change the way that we think, the way that we feel, and how we show up in the world. There is one book that I would highly recommend reading, which is called How to Do the Work by Dr. Nicole LePera. There is an entire chapter on the inner child, and actually every single chapter is just full of so much wisdom, and it has truly changed my life. I think it is an incredibly helpful book to have when it comes to discovering more about yourself and why you are the way that you are, and it has practical ways of getting through all of it. Growth is not linear, and it is a real up and down journey. One day you might feel like you've made amazing progress, and then the next day you just feel horrible and like you've gone 10 steps back. It can feel hopeless and exhausting, and trust me, there have been many moments where I have just felt like I don't want to be doing this. However, I know that it is incredibly worth it, and it helps build your emotional maturity and intelligence by doing so. You need to be able to just trust the process, even though it can be really painful at times. Just know that you are exactly where you are right now, and if you could be any different in this moment with the tools that you have, you likely would be. It takes time to see real change, which yes, can sometimes suck, but it takes effort to actually see real change because it requires a lot of self-reflection and deeper work to get there. It's not easy and it's not sexy, and I feel like these deeper things are not talked about enough. So have compassion for yourself and just know that if you are willing to go more inward when it comes to your own personal journey, then you will see a lot of change. We need to be able to allow feelings as they come up and to actually sit with them in order to heal from them. I'm still learning how to do that myself, sitting with uncertainty and feeling okay with that and being able to move through that. I certainly don't have everything figured out. I still hit incredibly dark and low periods, and I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I know that my ability in order to move through those darker periods have gotten shorter and shorter and more manageable. I think that largely comes down to the fact that I now understand myself a lot better, and I know that I'm not crazy and that it makes sense for me to be the way that I am. I think that if you start to look deeper within yourself and get into this stuff, which trust me is not woo-woo, because I'm not somebody that's into woo-woo things, and I'm actually quite a skeptic when it comes to most things. So I really think it's worth it to look into ways of how you can reconnect with your inner child and learn about your own core beliefs and where they came from. Now, in videos coming soon, I will talk about my experience when it comes to health anxiety. I will talk about my experience with my own OCD tendencies, which have definitely caused a ruckus in my life. I will also talk about things that I have done when I have felt moments of real panic and had to calm myself down and get my shit together. If any of this resonated with you, then please leave a comment below if you have any thoughts about it, and I hope that you have a lovely day or night wherever you are, and I will see you in a video soon.